Hello, hello, hello. Got my banana here. The banana slug is more fun, but I haven't found any more banana slugs lately. I have a nice banana slug video on Nikki Daisy Redwood. I already got a thumbs down on it. It must have bothered someone. But anyway, I want to talk about the Zimbardo Experiments in Berkeley, California in, I think, the late 60s, around the late 60s. They were doing all kinds of experiments at that time that later became unethical, declared unethical and illegal. So, but it's all trial and error. They didn't know. Dr. Philip Zimbardo, famous psychologist, he was on PBS. He didn't know in the late 60s that it would turn out the way it turned out. He had no idea. It took him by surprise. So here, this is a story, true story, unfortunately. Dr. Philip Zimbardo did an experiment with volunteer test people, and I believe they were all from Berkeley. They were all people who, if you meet them on the street, they're real nice and kind, and they'll be on board with all kinds of activism. Back then in Berkeley, they were very enthusiastic about activism, and they did a lot to go against the Vietnam War and those kinds of things. But, it turns out that underneath the surface, underneath the facade of being an intellectual, being kind, being compassionate, and so on, there is a different story. There is more depth to the psychology, okay? And when I heard about that, it made me absolutely furious. He had done several tests. I'm going to start with this particular one that really, really bothered me. But the other one bothered me too very much. But this one here in particular, this is so incredibly infuriating. It's unbelievable. Anyway, he put people into two groups. One group was supposed to play the prison guards, and the other group was supposed to play the prisoners. And they were told, this is just play acting. We're doing this for, I don't know, for months. He planned it out for a month, wanted to see how this is going. I guess he already had some kind of hypothesis about it. He wanted to test and see if that's the outcome. Is that what he is already expecting? So the people that were running the experiment, the psychologists, they tried to stay in the background as much as they could because they didn't want to interfere in any way. They wanted to really have a clear picture on what's going on. So it started out mild, and they were just acting, and I assume they were probably laughing a lot and just being goofy or whatever, And then as time progressed, every day, the self-proclaimed play prison guards, they became more and more abusive to the play prisoners. and they became so abusive. Every day they became so much more abusive, or at some point, and that's the majority of them. I think from 100 people, he said, there was like one person who was supposed to play the prison guard who would not be abusive the whole time. Okay, and I don't know how many people they had in that experiment. I think maybe 200 or 300 people. So, and the ones that were not abusive, I think they left at some point. They said, this is unethical. I would never be abusive. I would never play something like this, no matter what. And what I see in the other people there, this is not good. This experiment needs to be terminated. And well, some other psychologists finally said something too, and so eventually they did terminate the experiment before it was completed. I think it didn't take very long, maybe just halfway in, and the people who played the prison guards became so unbelievably abusive because it got to their heads. They were given this opportunity to play a prison guard and then go for it, do whatever you want to do, and go crazy, go wild with it, and the ego, and when they don't have the compassion center, when the brain is so full of their own narcissistic repairing and their own ways of this own feeling of I want to get even, or I want to have power, or I never had power, so I want to have power, but it's all unconscious. They're not consciously aware about all of these things that are going on. They just acted out, full blast, And they were actually starting to physically hurt the people who played the prisoners. They commanded them around, they were making fun of them, they humiliated them, and it went way past that what they were told this play acting was supposed to be like. So it was supposed to stay within certain limitations of ethics, and I think they were told that also. But that's all part of the experiment. He wanted to see if they will go beyond that. And they did. 99% went beyond this play and really emotionally and physically abused the people who played the prisoners. And so when I heard about that was this long time ago when I heard about this, it made me so incredibly mad. I cannot even describe it. And it made me not trust most people anymore. It made me become way more careful. Also in terms of jobs, in terms of what kind of job could I do, I've done cleaning jobs. One time, and that was in Germany, I was still in high school, did this cleaning job, and I worked all day long in this warehouse, clothing warehouse, and vacuuming, sweating, and all that. And then in the evening, the other people came to to change the shifts or whatever. And they told me that the boss is extremely violent and aggressive and volatile, and he yells at everyone. And I left without even taking the money because I was so terrified. Yeah, that was then, that's not now. So I have healed and I have worked on myself. I have grown. I'm not a pushover anymore. I don't chicken out anymore with that kind of situation. My grandfather was one of those volatile, choleric people, and he had a stamp business, and I would work there off and on when they had the auction phase. And one time my grandfather came in there and was so verbally abusive to me that I yelled back at him, and I called him the official you. We have two types of yous. So in Germany we don't call a family member the official you, like ma'am or sir equivalent here in this country. The official you, which is Sie. Du is the personal you, and Sie is the official you. I called him Sie, like he's some kind of stranger, and I didn't do that deliberately. It just happened because, and then he mocked me for calling him Sie, and so we had this shouting match there, and then I was so mad at him with a red face, and I walked away. I walked into one of those rooms where the stamps were stacked up in shelves, and I cried there hysterically. My aunt came in, and she was on my side, and I thank her for that. Okay. And she saw the situation, and she saw how abusive he was. And that was also the last time I ever helped them out during the auction. So I was already starting to stand up for myself at that time. I think I was 24 at that time, yes. And then every year I learned how to stand up for myself more and more and more and more and more. And sometimes I'd stand up for myself by being very angry, and then, so that's a phase, and these are all healing stages. And then later on, I learned through Thich Nhat Hanh and Tony Robbins and Jiddu Krishnamurti, good people, I learned that we can calm down our minds and we can stand up for ourselves without getting angry. And all of these are all stages in healing and learning. But it becomes very challenging, to say the least, when not only one variable is involved in this, like when it's not only about myself or my own needs. When it's about my own needs, I can stay calm and I can give people facts, and I can say, no, that's not how it is. It is, and I did that also with my grandfather. It made him furious. He would throw his hand on the table, and the dishes would flip up like that, because I would defy him in a calm way. I'd say, that's not true. That's not what Norbert said. So But, this is a learning and healing process that we go through. And so then as time progressed, I knew more and more and more how to stand up for myself in a calm way. When the situation was about me, when I was petitioning for the whales, it was the situation for, doing something for another living being. Then I also didn't have that shyness, and I had more courage. And the people there, the customers from the stores that would walk by, and I would ask them if they could sign the petition against active sonar. Some of them were kind of abusive a little bit. There was one in particular who showed his ass and he grabbed my petition board, wouldn't let go. And we called the police. I didn't get mad because I saw him as mentally ill, so it was not a situation where I was protecting someone. Not an emergency type of situation. I was speaking up for the whales. They are out there in the ocean, but it was not a situation where I had to jump in as a mother animal. Okay, so I could still stay calm. Or whatever situation it is where I'm speaking out also for my own, if one time I was abused by a man with a turban in a store. I complained to the manager. Yes, you bet, I do that. And she took my side. And I think they kicked the turban guy out because he was way off. Way off. And there I cried. I got upset because he was so mean to me, but I didn't get angry or anything. So I don't get angry when it's just a situation for myself. But here, now, this is a completely different situation now. I go to the dog pound, to the animal shelter, and there is a dog who needs us. Okay. My mother instinct kicks in. Okay. This is not about me anymore. This is also not about a situation, some kind of situation that is ongoing, that's out there somewhere. That's not right here in this moment. Emergency situation where mama animal has to jump in. Okay. At the dog pound, this is mama animal with baby. Okay. The moment I feel protective of an innocent being who needs my help, the whole thing shifts. Okay. That's when my Medusa comes out. I already said to Paul many times, when we go on vacations with the van and we might encounter some weird people or dangerous people, I'm not that concerned. I'm not that worried. The moment I have a dog in the van with me, that's when the Medusa comes out. That is the mother instinct. That's true love, by the way. A lot of people, they don't even know what true love is. They think true love is when you're always nice. No, then you're a pushover. Then that's not love. Okay? If the Gestapo comes and says, we need to get your husband, okay, who is hiding in the closet, and you say, oh, I need to be always obedient to the law. There he is in the closet because I don't want to. That's not love. I hope that makes sense a lot now. Okay, so in the same sense, When it comes to me being a mother animal, which I am, and then I actually have this baby there behind bars, but he is not released to go with us, but he's already in my heart, okay? There's my baby, and I'm a mother animal. I need to protect him. And then the manager at the animal shelter treats us like the prison guards at Berkeley. That's when the Medusa comes out. And that's true love. Okay, so I just wanted to shed some light on this situation, on what love is and what ethics is. Real love is ethics. Okay. To be obedient to authority and laws, no matter what, is not love. Then you're a pushover, you're a slave if you do that. If you have no critical thinking and you accept whatever some institutions, governments, or laws, or authoritarian figures, self-proclaimed, what they say to you, if you don't question it, then you are a slave to them. You made yourself into a slave to them. If you listen to the news and they portray things in a totally lopsided way in favor of the corporate agenda and you don't question it, then you are a corporate slave. Okay, that's what's happening. I just wanted to make this very, very clear. If you don't question things, if you don't look at, hey, let me follow the money trail, let me see who goes to the bank and laughs to the bank. Is it the animal rights activist? No. No, it's the corporatist. It's the person who works for the Department of Agriculture, which the animal shelter is tied to. Okay. They're not animal welfare people. They're not environmental people. They're the opposite. They work for the corporate agenda. So just wanted to make this very, very crystal clear. Then the other experiment that Dr. Philip Zimbardo had is the electric shock experiment. They had, you can read this, it's out there on Google. You can read in detail how these experiments were conducted and the outcome of it. Very interesting. And very infuriating also for anyone who has compassion. So what happened was he had actors there that were part of the staff of setting up this experiment, okay? And they would play being electrocuted, just play. They had these instruments there and all of this. They had two separate rooms. The test person couldn't see the actor, but the test person thought that actor was actually another test person who was being tested and who was being tested on their mental performance according to how many shocks they were being given. So the test person was the one who was administering the electric shocks. And what happened is, again, 99% of the people there would administer shocks all the way to lethal level. They didn't know that person was just acting. The person was acting so well, it sounded real. They would scream and then they would fall over. and the test person would hear all of that. And it was like there were 99% of those test people would go to the lethal level, and the vast majority of those that did felt no remorse or no compassion for that person who got the electric shocks. A few of them were sweating and were nervous about it, but they followed the orders because someone else who was playing the manager who would tell them, go, do it, go shock them. And they would get kind of dictational about it. And even though a few of them were nervous about it, they would then press that lethal shock because the manager, the person who played the manager, who told them to do it, an authoritarian figure, they would follow his orders. So another test that went very, 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 very bad and was very, very disappointing in terms of what's happening in most people's brains, okay, and how they function. And I think it is very, very important to shed light onto this. Okay. Very important. So, the animal shelter manager, he has something that we want, and he will not give us a dog. That is what he has. He has control over the situation with the dogs, who he can give his permission to adopt the dogs. And he doesn't like us because we are animal rights activists and environmentalists, and he is not. Okay, and he can see that in our faces. And also, according to the application form that we filled out. And there was one thing where Paul and I had to we were completely split apart on the answer, and where I said, there's no way I will fill that out then. There's no way I'm going to say yes to that answer. And the question was, would you bring your dog to an obedience school? And I would absolutely say no. Okay, that's absolutely crystal clear. Okay, that I would never send my dog into some kind of dog training or obedience school. Never ever. I've seen dog trainers. I've talked to dog trainers. Most of them are crazy, actually. Most of them are like those prison guards. Okay? They're dangerous for your dogs, so don't do it. So we had to leave that blank because Paul thought that because that manager guy would view that differently and then not give us the dog because we said no. So Paul is a little bit on the pushover side with this kind of stuff. I said, there's no way I'm gonna put an X on the yes. No way. Okay. My answer is no. And so we had to leave that open, and maybe that would also kind of indicate to them that we are against any kind of authoritarian type of school type of stuff, obedience training and those kind of things. So we made that very clear in the application form that the only way we house train our dogs is through reward and love. Okay? And peacefully and patiently every day show the dog, if the dog made a poo-poo, bring the poo-poo in the garden, show the dog where that belongs. Dogs can learn. Okay? They have some cognition, they have some cognitive activity. Not like you, not like, some Republicans that I've seen on the internet that think the dog knows. No, the dog does not know, okay, what you expected from him. Okay. Dogs don't think about, like cognitively behind the corner or into the future. If I do this, then that will happen, and then like in a complex way. No, they don't. They function, when people are mean to their dogs, the dogs become fearful, and then people make fun of them and have all kinds of horrible videos on YouTube on the dog feels guilty. And that is totally wrong, okay? They don't know anything about dog psychology, most people. It's very sad. And that's why I would change everything in the world. That's why we need a complete school reform. People need to pass license tests to have an animal in their custody. Okay. Just like the driver's license. People need to go to an ethics school. They need to take biology classes, psychology classes. Mandatory, should be mandatory. Before they get the license to even have custody over an animal. Or a child. Same. Same sentience. Most people are absolutely abhorrent with their children in the same way, But dogs really don't know what you want from them. They really don't understand. They function out of fear. They know that this or that, or this voice, of yours means danger, and then they cower down. That's abuse, okay? When people are hollering at the animals or children like this, or even do physical abuse. That's cruelty, okay? And that needs to be outlawed. And that's why it is absolutely vital that people have to go to ethics schools. That can be done on the internet. They have to do very elaborate ethics tests before they should get that permit or license to have custody over an animal or child. Any child, could be your own biological child. So that's how I view it. And I'm way out there, of course. People will never be on board with this. And that's why I say, and the way things are going politically right now, it is spiraling out of control. Okay. With the Muslim agenda, with the corporate agenda, with corruption, violence, and it doesn't look very promising for the future unless we get the AGI robots, okay, that will interfere in the nick of time before things go completely down the drain. Okay, and so I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping for the AGI robots to be completed before things get really, really bad. So what else did I want to say? Did I want to say in this regard? My observation on the internet with dating, for example, ties right into this as well. Or not just on the internet, my whole life I've seen this. What I observed is that boys or men, they will chase a woman, and the moment she wants them back, many of them are then not interested anymore, or they will just they're still in so much lust. They might have her for a night or maybe a week. It usually doesn't last very long. If she wants him back and if she gets attached to him, he will drop her. And not only because he gets bored, okay? So Sam Vaknin talks about this. This is very, 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 very interesting and very eye-opening what Sam Vaknin said about the narcissistic repair system in most people. So what happens is, when the woman wants the man back or feels attached, baby, why are you not writing? I've been through this so many times. Then they have something that the other person wants, okay, which is love, which is their love. And they say nope. Because then they think they have this. I always have to say pseudo power, because it's not real power. They think they have this. They have this leverage, but it's pseudo leverage. It's not real leverage. It's not real power, of course. Real power is love. Okay. Is compassion. Is wanting the best for the other. Is wanting to be there for the other. But most people are neurotic, and it's very important to shed light onto this. This brings a little bit relaxation into this very, very serious subject. And this also calms down my brain, because talking about this, thinking about this, makes me agitated and angry. But I don't want to get agitated and angry. So I've already tried several videos at the other house. That was right after that happened at the animal shelter. I had to delete the videos. I was too angry in the videos. I don't want to make angry videos where I use a lot of bad language. I don't want to do it. That doesn't make the world better. That's a venting for myself, but that doesn't teach anyone anything good. If I use a lot of bad language, I already did a lot of venting in the chat room and used the F word a lot, but I needed to do it. I needed to make that very, very clear where I stand with things, with people. That it is absolutely unacceptable to psychologically abuse women. Okay. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for anyone to psychologically or physically abuse any other person or being. Okay. I just want to make this very, very totally clear, so that there's no misunderstanding at all. Okay. Then we have to show people where our boundaries are. Absolutely. You have to do that. You must do that to make the world a better place. It starts with your own life. Okay. If you're pushover, you're not making the world a better place. If you are a masochist, and if you are acting out in sadomaso type of relationships, you are making the world worse. That's a fact. But these men, they think they have something that the other person wants, and then it actually feels so sweet to them. That kind of pseudo power that they have in that moment over someone else, like, no, I'm not gonna give that to you. I'm gonna let you crawl on your knees and beg me. I'm your whatever, guru or whatever. That's what goes through their heads. Okay. That's that power trip that goes through their heads. Okay, in that moment. And that feels, it must feel, obviously, must feel so much better to them. That must make them high, actually. To the point where that feels even better than the sex with that person, or the intimacy, particularly. That's another subject altogether. They're afraid of intimacy. That comes in as well. It's another variable that comes into this. But I just want to talk about this power trip right now in this video. It's a power trip, They want power over the woman. She wants him, baby, come right to me, And this power, they feel so unempowered that this power they have in that moment over that other person must feel so incredibly ecstatic to them that it is better than the sex with her, or the companionship, the love, the coziness, whatever. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to dig into this. Okay. And I also really want to dig into the causality of all of this. What causes that? Obviously, unempowerment causes this. Friedrich Nietzsche already talked about this in his books. That these kind of ways of behaving in people definitely comes from what he called the slave morality. That's unempowerment. It comes from, I guess, learned helplessness. That's another term in psychology. They have been conditioned into thinking that they have been told, they have been bullied into feeling completely unempowered. The actual feeling is they hate themselves, they feel worthless, they feel like they have no power, no leverage over anything. They feel stepped on. That's a collective thing. They tell each other then they have been stepped on. That happens in some demographics. Pay attention to this, and they escalate each other further into whatever kind of storyline they're telling themselves about other people, other demographics, when it's not true at all. And men in recent years, men start to think this unempowerment and they feel abused by women in general. So, and then they want to get even. But that's also another variable altogether, because that's then retaliation, and that's a more conscious process, I guess, more deliberate. But this thing with where they just want this power. They want to feel this power over the other person who wants something that they have, whether that's love or a dog or medication or money or whatever, then that's a very unconscious process, actually, where they're not consciously aware a lot of times. Most of them are not consciously aware of what's going on in that moment when they are enjoying this pseudo power over that other person. And it's also interesting, the book, I think this 48 Laws to Power by Robert Greene, how insanely much success that book had. I mean, that ties right into the subject. Why do people buy that book? Because they want power over other people. Teach me how I can have power over other people. That makes me so incredibly irritated. I just want to throw cakes in people's faces for that. I cannot be friends with someone who wants power over other people. That's just, I find it pathological. I also can't trust someone like that. No way. How can I ever trust someone like that? I can never hire someone like that as an employer. I don't want a renter who is like that. Every renter we had, almost every renter was like that. And then I get into a mental state where I often end up in that mental state, finally, where I feel I go like, oh no, do I hate the human species? No. So, been there so many times, I can't count it anymore. It doesn't feel good to be in that mental state of, I hate humans. Doesn't feel very good. And it doesn't move us forward. That's for sure. I know that Paul is in that state. He's very negative. Okay? And he tears me into it also. And then I go, well, he's right. Well, just because he's right about certain details of this doesn't mean we have to stay stuck in that mental state. So that's now a message to myself. That's now a message to him. That's a message to every compassionate person who is frustrated and feels like at the end of the road. A lot of those people are ready to commit suicide. They're ready to throw it all away. I understand you 100%. I know exactly where you are at. Okay. That's no surprise. You get into a mental state like this, with 99% of people being absolutely selfish and power hungry and corrupt. No wonder, right? But that's not the last stage that we want to aspire to, right? Of course. So our goal is to transcend that as well, and look at the human species like an ant colony. Okay, you look at the ant colony. Sometimes I see ants attacking a little caterpillar because they want the sugar in that caterpillar. They don't see the caterpillar. The ants don't have a central nervous system like we have. There's some type of nervous system. It's very rudimentary. It's still extremely complex, but it is compared to a mammal or bird or a very highly sentient being with a central nervous system. Of course, they're way more robotic. They're way more programmed by their DNA. Like little robots, basically, and they're driven by trying to extract sugar molecules into their own bodies, and they bring that also to the queen ant. And this whole system is very, very, very structured and very robotic, of course. And when I look at that, I'm not going to get mad at them for attacking that little caterpillar. No, I take the little caterpillar immediately, the mother animal that I am. I wash off the ants and I bring the caterpillar to a safe place, okay, and set him into a leaf or somewhere where there are no ants, okay, where the caterpillar can eat the green stuff and go into metamorphosis and become a moth or butterfly. So I always help when I see that situation. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to get all furious over the ants. Right? Oh, they are power hungry. No. They're driven by extracting sugar molecules. They go into a freezer to get sugar molecules. So they're just quite robotically driven. It's very, very, very mechanistic. In a sentient, highly sentient being, this is, of course, a different story. But as Eckhart Tolle said, now he's making a bunch of noise. As Eckhart Tolle said, if the wind pushes your car, you're not going to get mad at the wind. In the same sense, you shouldn't get mad at people who might be hollering at you at the 405 freeway when the freeway comes to a stop. He wants to explain to us that everything is basically like the wind. So in that sense, I look at the ant colony and I realize I don't get mad at them. Okay, I should look at the human species in the same way, from the sky perspective. And I see where are they coming from, How much are they mechanically driven by their DNA, by their brain formation, by their upbringing, by the way they have been drilled, and so on. There are many variables that will form someone into becoming like this. I want to look at how can we heal this now. It starts first of all with me by not hating them. I have my moments where that hate is appropriate and justified, and that anger and all of that, and I deal with that in my own space. I can scream it into my pillow also sometimes, because it gets very heated, and it's a very intense energy that builds up. It's not a fun mental state to be in at all, to be in that state of rage, not at all. You don't even know where to put that anger. So I understand people who are very angry. I understand very well how they feel, particularly those that have the truth on their side, and particularly the mother animals like myself. So that's when the anger gets really intense. So intense, I don't even know what to do with it in that moment. But I still deal with it every single day in my own space. And then I cry. Arjanov always said, underneath the anger are the tears. Underneath the anger is extreme fear and pain and hurt. Okay. And I get to that. Okay. And that's also when I get into that state. That's the ego dissolution funnel. That's when I get into that. That's the beginning of the ego dissolution funnel. I get underneath the anger. Okay, I dive right in. That's what Jiddu Krishnamurti calls that door. Go through that door. Okay. Through that door where the ego dissolution funnel begins. Okay. The door of perception. That's real perception. That's not just some fancy New Age terminology or the Doors or Jim Morrison. And he got that from Aldous Huxley. And Aldous Huxley got it from Jiddu Krishnamurti. But they don't say where they got it from. They always wanna look like they came up with it. And Jiddu Krishnamurti is talking about this. That is the door. That we want to get into. That is the ego dissolution funnel. That's the inwardness meditation process. Okay, that's when you enter into that funnel. Okay, that's the healing process. Okay, anger has its place also. Some people can't even allow themselves to be angry, and then then it snarls up in the wrong way, in the wrong moment. Okay, no, that's not good either. You have to work with that, you have to acknowledge, I'm angry right now, or whatever. If that's happening, acknowledge it. Don't act it out on anyone. Deal with it in your own room. And then, as Arthur Janov said, underneath that anger, we can't be stuck in that anger, of course. No? But feel it through, all the way through, in meditation. You can also write things down, you can talk about it, you can make videos. It's very important. For me, it's very important to address all of this and to sort all of this out. This needs to be ordered, all of that. This is the healing process. To really analyze and sort it all out and lay it all on the table. What's happening? Okay, let's look at it from the sky perspective. At this entire situation where all these other people are coming from. Thich Nhat Hanh would say, and imagine that animal shelter manager, envision him as the little boy that he once was. You see the little boy, the 5-year-old boy who was beaten by his stepfather or father. Then he doesn't know how to deal with it. Very few people know how to deal with it and still stay compassionate and kind and not become another dictator themselves. Very few. Most fall into the same trap that they have been trapped with. They cannot think beyond that. Okay, that's why I want to shed light onto this. So, if there's any chance at all for those people to become aware of this, if they can, then it is through discussing these things publicly, okay, like I do with my videos, or when we talk about this in the chat room, or on Facebook. It's very important to bring these things to the surface. Nothing is taboo. Okay, nothing. Society that's neurotic makes things taboo. That's the ego doing that. No subject is taboo. When it becomes taboo, it becomes suppressed. Okay, and that's not going anywhere. Okay, you guys take care. Bye bye.